Okay, I'm live and welcome everyone to the Slim Nation 101's experience. And of course, I'm Slim Overton and just coming up here live, just wanted to talk a little bit about local elections and how important they are. Of course, I'm here in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, and you might be where in the United States of America in the cities. And just wanted to stress the importance of local elections and being involved. One thing about local elections, you can directly be involved. You can, it's the same with other elections as well, national and state, but excuse me, but more so in local elections because you might even live in the same neighborhood as your elected officials, which is might be a little different in other cases. But you can be directly involved by sitting on boards, or as far as the elections concerned, you can become an elections officer. Um, that means you can work at the precincts. You can apply to be one of those people. And a very important job. I did it for several years, as well as working directly for candidates. You can do any one of those things to be involved. And you can do is make sure you get people out there registered to vote who are not registered, or just be out there giving out the information on what people need to do. One of the things people need to do early to make sure you don't have a problem, because a lot of people vote, when they can. On election day, they're working and they might vote on their lunch periods or something like that, or have other things they have to do and they have to fit it in. So the worst thing is to go to a precinct that you thought you were registered to vote there and find out it has changed, or you haven't voted in a few years and they have dropped your name or something like that. It takes a while of non-voting before that really happens, and sometimes it all depends on who's running things and when they want to purge people, and so you have to be aware of that. So make sure you check and make sure, because sometimes they temporarily change voting precincts like that. I think they have done one in the city of Portsmouth. So make sure you check that website, the registrar's website for the city, and get all the information you need from there. So so you don't have any problems on election day as far as in voting, and know all the other options you have if you happen to be out of town. Or of course, early voting is always a great option for people. About 45 days before the election, they open up the early voting opportunities, and that's a great time for, if you've already decided who you want to vote for by that time, you can go ahead and get that out of the way, and you don't have to worry about something coming up. You have to be out of town, or something like happened to me one election day, which is why I always early vote. On election day, I had to be in the hospital. And of course, certainly that wasn't expected, and probably one of the only times I didn't vote because I couldn't. I waited to election day to vote, and I had to be in the hospital on that day. I had to be entered into the hospital. Just went to check on something, and they kept me, so I couldn't vote. So I always vote now early, uh, and I'm always early to know pretty much who I'm gonna vote for, because I try to keep up with all the people who are running, and make my assessments according to uh, their platforms, and going to um, certain events where they will present their platforms, especially if they're new. Now the incumbents, it's easy for me to make up my mind with them, because I've watched them, and of course they have a voting record of how they voted, and you can see how they've been out in the community for certain things, and not always for the big events. Like a lot of candidates like to show up for the big events because they figure the more people there, the more they are seen. But when you see candidates show up for events where it might just be three people, you know that candidate is really concerned, and he deserves a really good look as far as if that he or she is an incumbent and decides to run again. If you see them at events like that where they're not being seen by the maximum people, which and you can kind of figure it out if you are out and about and going to different events. You can figure out after a while who shows up for what, you know, and that shouldn't be the only indicator you use uh, to vet a candidate, but it should be one of the factors that you use in your equation that you put together when you're trying to decide who you want to represent you and who you think represents your interests best. So it's a lot of things involved, and that's why it's so important to if you have to catch up, to try to catch up to what's going on, or talk to someone that you know that's been involved, someone that you trust that's going to tell you like it is, or give you the options of all the different people that are running, and just lay it out like that and let you decide what you want to do. Now, if you are influenced by that person because you respect their person and they have the same values you have, and their interests are the same as your interests, then you can pretty heavily rely on that person. If you're not keeping up, or if you're not into the politics, you have a lot of other things going on in your life where it doesn't allow you to keep up exactly what's going on, but you are interested in what goes on in your community. You're interested in the future of your children if you have them still growing up. Even if they're grown children, you're concerned about how uh, the effects of elected officials' decisions will have on them, as well as yourself. So, make sure you just try to be as involved as you can, and I'm concentrating on the city of Portsmouth right now, and hopefully if you see this, you can make a video, or it encourage you to get out there and get involved. This is the time now, because this is when things, when the summer ends, when things really start getting moving, and you want to already be on that train once it starts moving, so you won't have to run behind that train and catch up with what's going on. And then when election day comes, you make a decision that's not in your best interest. So the main thing is getting out there and voting. And you hear it all the time, and people say they get sick of people trying to convince them. You hear uh, uh, celebrities saying, you can't tell me how I need to vote. I'm my own person, and I'm sick of people telling me I need to vote, I need to vote, I need to vote, and then it doesn't make any difference. Well, it does make a difference. It does make a difference. If you've been keeping up with what goes on in politics for a long time, you will know for yourself it makes a difference. That's why you get a certain amount of people. You're going to get a certain amount, a percentage of people that's going to vote no matter what, in the rain or whatever, snow, sleet, or whatever. If they have to hop, if they have a broken leg and they have to hop there, they're going to vote because they know how important that vote is. So, but that percentage of people needs to go up, especially in the city of Portsmouth. I've always believed and I respect the people that do vote and put elected officials in office, but I always felt like 20% of the total people that are registered to vote is kind of unfair, you know, when that's all the people vote, and then people that they are representing, you know, 68 about 68,000 people that are registered to vote, and only 20% of the people voted for the people that are in office. Not saying that the people that end up in office don't deserve to be there, because if they were a good candidate, they probably would win, even if the percentage was higher. But it just, the optics of it, and it's not all about optics either, but it just looks better. It feels better to me when I see that a strong majority of the people in the city have put these elected officials in place, and not so much so you don't, you don't hold them accountable for things that go on. You still have to do that. And you definitely have to do that. You have to feel like if you put them in office, you can hold them accountable. You can tell them if you disagree with what their vote, or you're disappointed in their vote, or before the vote even comes up, let them know how you feel about it. Because most of the candidates that are good candidates and are good stewards of are good public servants will want to hear from you. It helps them make those decisions. Other than that, they have to make a decision one way or another, and a lot of their decisions might depend on what the staff presented to them, whatever department presented to them at the time on an issue that's before them. And if that's all they have to go on, and they got a good presentation from the staff showing the advantages it will have for the city of Portsmouth, of course, that's the way they're going to vote. But it might be, it might not be the sentiment of the majority of the people. And so that will weigh heavily on the way most of the candidates will vote if they hear enough from the people. And I've talked to candidates, and they really want that. Some might not necessarily pay attention to that once they're in office. None of us are perfect. Some people will get in office and you never see them again. You see them at, like I mentioned earlier, at large events, but you don't see them in your backyard as much, unless they find out the cameras are going to be there. Then if it's three people and maybe 10, they'll be there. But and this, I'm saying this is not all the candidates. Yeah, I've seen over the years, and it might not uh, relate to any of the candidates that are presently on council now. But over the years, I've seen this. I've seen this, and I've been around a long time, over 40 years, and dealing with the Portsmouth politics in one way or another. And so I've seen a lot of candidates that were elected, and it was the elected office they hold is for them and not for the people. And we do get those every once in a while. And you want to make sure that doesn't happen. You want to make sure that people care, that are elected, that care about the people. And you can only know that by doing your research on them, and listening to their platform, and actually talking to them, and when you see them out. And I say this all the time, and unless uh, you have to respect their privacy. If you see it's like a private family thing that they're having, and you got to respect that. But if they're out in your community, they're looking for you to come and have a conversation with them, or set up a time when you can talk to them later. Or even if you can't do that, send those emails to them. They do read those emails. It might take them a while to get back to you if you're looking for an answer, but they do read those emails, and often you hear them uh, saying they got a certain amount of emails from citizens, which is why they are voting that way. The ones that just describe or talk about why they voted a certain way. And by the way, I look for that in a candidate that doesn't always just vote, and you don't know why they voted something up or down. And the ones that really will tell you, and a lot of them will tell you, especially when they know it's an unpopular decision. They've gotten wind that if they vote something down, a lot of citizens might not like that. But a lot of times, if they explain why they're voting that way, you still might not like it, but you might understand why they decided to go that way, because either they're conscious, or maybe they had a certain amount of people that uh, contacted them and said, I want you to vote this way, or I don't feel like this is in my best interest, and I'm looking forward to you to supporting us on this. And, you know, so, and I would demand that more of our elected officials. And so many people think about the length of meetings sometimes. The hell with the length of the meetings. The meetings are held twice a month, and it's an opportunity for citizens to that don't get a chance to see you in their communities, that or any events that are happening that they might have to work. It gives them a chance to either come there to the city council, or at least watch it. But if they have something to say, it gives them an opportunity to come there and or watch you explain things to them on the video section of it. So when you just sit there, when the candidates or the elected officials just sit there and all this technical stuff is read, this is a part of the city manager's report, or this is, you know, something we're about to vote on, and it's read and it's in a language that only they understand. You know, I've known some councilmen that after it's read, after the caption is read by the city clerk, they uh, they explain what it might be, what citizens might not quite understand, or makes it a little bit clearer to what they're voting on. And I think that's important. But to not do certain things because you want to end the meeting, you don't want to have a long meeting. Uh, I've known time city of Chesapeake have meetings well after midnight, and handling the city's business. And if it goes that way, it goes that way. That's what you elected to do, not to make sure your meetings are not that long. And I take, I take, I just hate the fact to think that some of the reasons why certain things are cut, or comments are not made, or if a council person wants to comment 5 times on the issue, let them comment 5 times on the issue. If the councilman wants to question uh, back and forth, or have a conversation back and forth with someone that came there to ask a question and they tried to answer it, you don't cut them off in thinking about time. You just let that conversation go until that citizens understand. Unless it gets crazy, it can get crazy sometimes and kind of repetitive, and you can do only what you can do in certain situations. But especially and that's why it's bad, but that's the only way you can place it, when you place the citizens' comments at the end of a meeting, especially if it's one of those meetings where a lot of business has taken place, and you as a council person might be a little weary, but you signed up for this, So if because still most of them are still working, and you had a long day, and then here you are at the council meeting handling a lot of business. You had the pre-meeting, uh, the day before, and you might have had a pre-meeting before the council meeting, and you have the council meeting, and then right at the end, you see a line of people come up to make statements and ask questions, and you don't have any dialogue with them because you're just trying to get to the end of the meeting. And I think that's the worst thing that elected officials can do when the citizens want to have a voice, to come up there and say what they have to say. I agree with the citizens, with the rules of citizens being respectful to the council person, but it also has to be a two-way street. Because I've seen this happen where the rules are for the people to be respectful to the council people by not naming them or pointing them out, holding any particular council person accountable. But they can come back at you. Certain ones, if they want to, can come back at you and say certain things to you, and I think that's really unfair. I think in some cases where, unless you are really rude, you should be able to point out something that a particular council person might have said, or the way they voted on an issue. Because how else can you hold them accountable if you don't call them out? If you don't call them out on a specific, but being rude, I think that will be in the who the mayor is the chair, or the vice mayor is the chair of the meeting. It's up to them to rule on that particular case. But to disallow, citizens to hold a particular council person accountable for something they have said or a vote they have made, I think that's a big mistake. I think that's a big mistake, and there should be some adjustments in that rule as far. But it's kind of a blanket rule. You can't say anything or mention any council person's name. But there's ways you can get around that too, because if you mention about the way somebody voted, they know who you're talking about. But I think they should be named. That's just my opinion on that. But anyway, my main focus is making sure that we pay attention to the local elections, and because it directly affects us, like I said in the beginning. And we have some candidates for, I was looking for when the deadlines for candidates to declare, and I know it's sometime this month. I haven't been able to see them. So if anybody watching this, and put in the chat if you know exactly when that deadline is, because I'm just seeing so far, and I'm sure some other people will run so far. Donna Lee Biggs, Mark Hugel, and Mark Hugel, and Vernon Tillage, and Bill Moody, incumbents. And of course, you have former Vice Mayor Lisa Lucas Burt is running for a council seat to regain her council seat, and as well as Dr. Mark Whitaker that has declared to regain his seat. So, and that's all I see so far officially put down. It's been rumors of other people who might be running, but I don't see any official things so far. And I guess some people hold out. I guess by the time the deadline comes and the registrar displays all the candidates that are running, I think that will come out. That will come out, as well as the school board. I think it's a few people running for the school board. I think Whitaker mentioned that his wife, Dr. Whitaker, is rerunning for the school board as well again. And I think we have what I'm seeing here right now. There might be others. Like I said, tell me if you know of others, or if you know of the deadline. It looks like we have okay. Miss Shoemate is is an incumbent running. Dr. Cotton, Dr. Patillo, school board member Futrell, Denzel Glover, who is the mayor's son, and this gentleman Pasilia, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And let's see if they have his. Well, I don't see his first name. But anyway, those are the ones I think. Oh, yeah. Going back to council again, Jonathan Adam Smallwood is a candidate as well. And looks like he's a new candidate. And of course, I mentioned Donna Biggs. She has run several times for city council. I think she ran for mayor time, and also school board. So, and she is a very active speaker at the council meetings, often speaking on every public 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 item. So a lot of people know her, but treat her just like you do all the candidates. Vet her, as well as Jonathan Smallwood. and as well as the incumbents. Of course, I see by the state law doesn't require the council people to declare a Democrat or Republican. All of them are considered independent, you know, in running for a local office like that. And pretty much, it's always been that way. But the way things are now, you pretty much they don't have to let you know, but if they've been around a while, you pretty much know if they're a Democrat or if they lean to the left or the right. And that might more so today. It probably always has been, but more so today, factor in your vetting of a candidate, because if they align themselves with what's going on in on the national scene or on the state scene, that might um, that might affect your vote as well. That might affect your vote in the positive or the negative. So you know, kind of try to find out. Even though they don't have to declare, they're listed all here as independents, but like I said, you either can tell or you can just point out, ask them, what are their, uh, ho- what do they believe in, what are their policies on national issues, which the national issues can trickle down to the local, to the localities. But sometimes that takes a while for that to happen. But it may be important for you to know, what's going, how they feel about those national issues, and especially depends on who's in who's in charge. And of course, you have the board of elections, and congratulations to Miss Barnes, who is now um, Portsmouth Register. April Barnes is her name, and she's been working a long time. I think she started under uh, um, Overton Short, and she's been there a long time, and she's now the register, Portsmouth Register, and she has the experience. She's probably had the experience for a long time to be there, but other obligations were probably uh, more important to her at the time. And now it's time. It's time. It's her time to step up, and she's there. And I really congratulate her. And I've known her for a long time, being working, for the registrar's office at precincts, and so. I can vouch for her being well. I don't have to vouch for her. She her record stands for itself as far as her qualifications to be in that position. You can be assured that things will run smoothly. They will be fair. You won't have anybody coming from the national, or they might come, but they won't have anything to say about if any elections are stolen or anything fraudulent about what goes on here in the city of Portsmouth with April Barnes at the helm. And it's it hasn't happened with anybody who has been at the helm, at least during my time of knowing the Dolores Short Overton, and can't think of the lady's name in between. Please excuse me. But now Dolores is is on the board of elections. She's one of the members there with long time um, member William Watts, and you know how that works. It's a three board member. I think Miss Summerlin is also on there. It's a three board membership, board of elections members, and depending on who's in office as the governor, if the governor is Democratic, then you have two Democratic members and one Republican. If the governor is Republican, you have two Republicans and one Democrat. But they all, and that's just how it works out. But they all are tasked with making sure the elections and everything that's done with the elections and the process is run smoothly. That's why you'll see them going from precinct to precinct, during election day. But they kind of on the scene or working all year round, making sure um, that everything is on the up and up. The people that are employed in the precincts know all the rules through the training and following all the rules that are required by them to work at the precincts and to make sure everything that is offered to the voters are there at their disposal. Absence. I mean, and it's comfortable and made easy for people coming to vote can vote. So yeah, so that's where we are. So after the summer, and you already see some of the people that are known to be running already had their opening their launch parties. I'll put it that way, uh, declaring their candidacy and I've seen a few signs out already. So it's already started, but it's going to go full force when the summer comes, or full force once everybody has declared. They even have people. I don't know how old this is, but the financials don't have any reported for Donna Biggs yet. Mark Hugo has reported 23 1,509. Lisa Burke has 32,120. Bill Moody, yeah, they're just showing $6, but I'm sure he has more than that in there. He just haven't declared it yet, and you don't have to declare it yet. But it's most of the time incumbents have money left over from their last campaign. Brendan Tillage reporting 10,880, and Mark Whitaker, Dr. Whitaker, reporting 9,962. So pay attention to this election. 3 seats are up, and all three of them are incumbents. Well, they're gonna always be incumbents, but all the three of the incumbents are running. Even though I think Bill Moody had declared that he wasn't going to run, and then he changed his mind and said he was going to run. And I think when I was at the parade, I saw people passing out his his paperwork, getting signatures to qualify. And I think he just needed 125 signatures to turn in to with all the other paperwork you have to turn in, your financials and declaration of real estate interests and things like that. And but people, most candidates try to get far more than the 125 signatures they need, because a lot of people, might sign and didn't know they had to live in the city, or the signature the way they're didn't sign the name the way they're registered to vote. So, a lot of things will throw a lot of signatures out. So, anyway, if you see those signatures going around, and I don't think it's much time left for that before we find out who all are. And I think if it stayed at the people I just told you, that would be fine with me, because then you could really, the citizens really could take their time and vet all the candidates as far as the incumbents and the new people that are running, and it will be much easier. It won't be a big dilution of the vote, and hopefully more people will come out because they will have more time to vet a smaller field of candidates. But I'm sure the field of candidates will grow once the deadline has passed and the uh, uh, official count, official list comes out of candidates. Uh, so I just hope it's not too many, but I do support the right of anybody who wants to run. But I encourage people, when you run, make sure that you have a chance. Don't just run to be running, um, where you might interfere with uh, someone's vote that might have more of a chance than you. Um, I know that sounds cold. Don't just run to be running, but make sure you put in the time to create a great platform, and the city, the city's issues. Uh, are almost as well as the incumbents. Because if you're going to knock an incumbent out, you have to know just as much as them. You might get a lot of popular votes, but if you get up there and you can't, and you go around to different communities and you can't at least say something about that particular community's concern, or you can't go in every community saying, I didn't know that." You that's gonna, in a lot of cases, disqualify you. You go in there with some knowledge, or say, if you say I didn't know that, say I'll have to look that up. And if you say that, go back to that community and follow up and say you looked it up, and let them know that you did the work in some kind of way. Let them know that you did the work, and this is how you feel about it. That's just a tip. You can't just make those statements and then never follow up and come back. People remember that. So that's why I said sometimes it's good when that list is not, a list of 14 people, and you got some people up there that really have no clue or no business running at that time. It might not be the time for you to run. You might not have time to study the issues properly, to be as informed as you can as a candidate. I'm not saying you have to be an expert on everything, but I've seen it, you've seen it. People run, and you see them at a few forums, and you say, "What in the world?" You know, did this person just want attention? Because they have no clue of what's going on in the city of Portsmouth, or what the interests are of the people. So. Uh, but anyway, so I guess I've come to you, and just the main thing I said a whole lot, just to really say I could have come on and say make sure you vote in the local elections, but I have more to say about it than that. Probably more than I should have. Been up here longer than I should have, but I can do that. And you can watch, and you can watch some of it or watch pieces of it. And but make sure, whether you watch it or not, all of it. I'm glad I said it in the beginning. Make sure you know how important it is for you to vote in the local elections, and how important, even more important, for you to make sure you do your homework and vet these candidates, even the ones that are incumbents, because they're the easiest ones to vet because they have a record and you've seen them. Or you can go back to the videos that are out there and look at certain videos and see how they perform. Well, I don't want to use the perform. See how they acted in the interest of the city of Portsmouth and you. So it should be no excuse you not knowing if that person deserves to be put to be reelected or not, after you've had chance to really vet them and really do your homework and find out, did they do some things, did they were their votes something that helped you and your community and the city at large. So, and the people that are new, and two of the people that uh, Lisa Lucas Barrett and Dr. Mark Whitaker have been on council before, and if you've been around and paying attention to council, they also are pretty much like incumbents. You can go back and watch film of them um, acting in the interest of you and the city of Portsmouth, and get an idea if that's who your candidate is, and couple that with the forums that will be coming up, and the opportunities you have to see them out and about and questioning them, or emailing them, if you have questions or if you want to know something or you want to invite them to a group. And I've seen in the past where people in certain communities, especially if you don't have a strong civic league or you miss the civic league meetings or some of the people, you can invite them to your home. And I encourage people to do that. Invite a candidate to your home and invite some of your neighbors. You can't get more intimate than that as far as um, asking them one-on-one questions. A form is good where you get sometimes generalized questions, and the candidates have a short amount of time to answer a question where they really have some really deep feelings about a certain issue, but they don't have time to really address it like they should. Bringing them to your home and bringing some of your neighbors into your home and having that conversation with that one particular candidate, and then maybe next time in another neighbor's home, do it. You know, now it might not be feasible to have all the candidates that way, but there are candidates that you might be leaning towards, but you want to know more about. I encourage you, if you can, have all of them on one-on-ones in those kind of intimate settings. Do it, but it, in reality, it only makes sense to probably do it with the people because it can be time-consuming and costly to have the candidates that you really are leaning towards or that you might favor, but you want to bring your neighbors into your house. And it doesn't have to be a lot of neighbors. Just bring them into your house where they can have those one-on-one conversations, and then they will go out talk about their experience with that. And that's how you spread that. That's I always thought that was a better way to do it. I don't think you see that as much anymore, but it was something that was really practiced. Some years back by candidates or people that wanted to support candidates by having something in their home and then inviting some of their neighbors there who may not have the time to keep up with what's going on and have that conversation with that particular. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as an option or a vetting candidates in a way where you really, really can learn if they are someone that you really, really want to vote for and represent you and your interests. All right, people. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you tuning in here on my YouTube page. And of course, anybody that's just watching that doesn't live, excuse me, it seemed like, well, anyway, that doesn't live in the city of Portsmouth, you live in some city. So you can take the city of Portsmouth out of it and include your city and do some of the same things in preparation for your next local your next local erase. So realize it's just as important in your city as it is in any other city, and it's just as important as the national race or the state races that go on. So when it comes down and you have to vote down ballot, you can vote all the way down to your local because you will be well informed of what's going on in the local because you see what's happening every day on any news outlets or independent news outlets of what's going on nationally. So you might be more inclined to know about what's going on there as opposed to knowing what's going on in your own city. And that's a shame. And don't if you don't think it happens, work the polls outside or go outside the polls and stand sometime and watch the amount of people that come up there not knowing until they walk in that door who they're going to vote for. That's why you see it's so important. All those candidates, supporters be out there passing out. You hear people say, you know, this is voting day. I know what I'm gonna do, but most people don't. Most people don't, and the candidates know that that's a big and important part of their campaign. Having people out at the precincts, catching those people at the last minute that don't know what they're gonna do. That's why you see it, and it's gonna always be that way unless you are more informed and you can just walk past all those people with all those papers that you will eventually throw in the trash because you know before you go to the polls exactly who you're going to vote for because you've done your homework. You've vetted the candidates. You know what your interests are. You know what you're looking for in your neighborhood. You know what's best, what you want to see your city do. You want to be informed as much as possible and involved. All right, people, take care, and we'll see you next time on the Slim Nation 101's Experience. Well, we'll come back and we'll be back, of course, with the 101s with uh, uh, authors, everyday citizens, and also the City Talk with Slim, where I'll be talking with city officials. I have a few lined up. Just had to wait for them to get into their summer mood. The kids are out of school now and they had to do some things, but I have some council people, local council people coming up, and other people in other departments coming up for City Talk with Slim that's a part of this Slim Nation 101's experience. So stay tuned for that. And also make sure you watch every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. for our take on it featuring Slim and Shona. We're having a really good time over there with our guests and sharing some great information about their journeys and what they're doing now and about specific um, uh, challenges. I'll put it that way. Sorry, that they've had in their lives that probably some of you have experienced yourselves, and it's always good to hear someone talking about and being really uh, blunt about sharing personal stories that they have gone through that they didn't think they would ever share, but it's therapeutic for them to share it, and then it's also enlightening to them to know that they are sharing something that might help someone else. So look out for every Tuesday night, every Tuesday evening at 7. Uh, our take on it is the name of our channel, featuring Slim and Shona when we come up every Tuesday evening with a variety of subjects and guests. And, you know, it's something that I'm very proud of that, and we're trying to grow that. It's one of our newest channels, and we're trying to grow that. And we're going to need your support to subscribe and like what we're doing. But make sure you come over to this channel as well as the Slim Nation 101's experience and the City Talk with Slim. And we're just going to try to cover as much as we can and give people the opportunity to come up here and express themselves. And I will have candidates up here uh, by request. If a candidate wants to come up here, I will, it's best for me to do it that way than for me to pick people. If I pick people, um, then, whether I support them or not, I might be accused of leaning towards that person. And I have no problem saying, if I'm leaning towards that person, but I think it's better if someone wants, as a candidate, wants to come up here and talk and share their platform. I think for me, that's the best way to go. So I'll put it out there and let the candidates know if they want to come up here to contact me, at or at Dallas 4059 at gmail.com. That's DALLAS 4059 at gmail.com. And let me know if you want to, as a candidate for the city council, or as a candidate for the school board in November. If you want to come on and have a half hour, or give each candidate a half hour to come on and share their platform and possibly answer some questions from me. But pretty much it'll be you sharing your platform, and any questions that I ask one candidate, I will ask. Well, I can't say that I will ask each candidate, because some of them will be incumbents and some of them will be new. So, of course, the questions that I might have for them may be different, and it might be different for each candidate depending on how prepared I am for that particular candidate, especially if they're incumbents. I can, you know, bring up certain votes that they made and certain decisions they made and certain things that they have said, and have them address it on the show if they will. All right, everybody, we're going for real here. Thank you. And as always, on all my platforms, I always say be aware, be informed, and most of all, be involved. And I'll see you next time. Take care. For real this time.